it's Deb here with Creative Life. So today we're going to go ahead and do the second part of this mini album. Okay, so to get started covering our book, you're going to need two pieces that are 11 by 7 1/8, one piece that is 3 1/4 by 7 1/8, and those are going to fit perfectly with the length of your spine. Okay, or the hinges, I mean. And then you're going to place double back tape on the back of these, or your whatever adhesive you choose to use. I'm using double back tape and I'm using my glue, and I'm going to go ahead and just spread that around all over. And then we're going to go ahead and lay this down on top of the book. This is for the inside covering, okay? And you're just going to leave a little bit of a border on the top, in the sides, and on the bottom there, like I have. And then you're going to go ahead and burnish that in really, really good, okay? Next, you're going to go ahead and follow along the creases that are in between the chipboard pieces, and you're just going to go ahead and then bring, as you're creasing those with your bone folder, you're going to go ahead and bring up the flaps, okay, to make sure that they fold in easily. Okay, just as I'm doing here. So I'm creasing it with my bone folder and just kind of bringing it up gently, and making sure that the creases are really nice and aligned. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and lay down the second piece that is the 11 by 7 1/8. And again, I'm just removing my back tape, and then I'm going to add my glue. Okay, and then you're going to go ahead and lay that down right next to where that crease is, that second crease. That's the, like, in between where that spine was going to go, or the spot, the hinge. Okay, and then you're going to go ahead and you're going to burnish that in really good. Make sure it's even across the top, and then burnish that in. Again, you're going to go ahead, grab your bone folder, and follow along the creases in between the chipboard pieces, and then bring those up and make sure that you get the creases, really smooth. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and grab the 3 1/4 inch piece, or it's the 3 1/4 by 7 1/8 inch piece, and you're going to place tape on the back of that, and then you're going to go ahead and remove the tape and add your glue to that, and then we're going to lay that right down at the end of, on that flap there, that end flap. Okay, and again, you're just going to go ahead and line that up right with the other pieces that you've just laid down, and you're going to burnish that in really good. And I'm just removing the excess glue that's kind of popping out. All right, so now we have our book covered, okay, and you're just going to go ahead and crease these in. Make sure that you're able to bend everything and close everything up just like this, okay? And then next, what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and get our pattern paper and cover the inside and the outside. Okay. All right. So now that we're done covering the inside of our book, we're going to go ahead and cover our inside with the pattern paper. Now, I chose these two brick pieces that are from the June kit. Okay, so for this part here, before we get started papering, I wanted to share with you a tip that I do. And I put PP on the inside of each of my areas that I'm going to use my pattern paper on. And what that means is it's pattern paper, okay? And I'm going to write the measurement down for each piece on that area, so I know what to cut my papers on. This is just a little, FYI. Now, this is just a little tip for you. So if you're covering folios or mini albums, it's just something that I like to do, and that way I don't have to constantly measure everything out while I'm cutting my paper. It's already measured out, and all I have to do is look over at my mini album or folio areas and cut my paper out. So you'll go ahead and you'll finish off doing the rest of your measurements for the inside and the outside, or the front of your mini album. Okay, so I went ahead and did the PP for pattern paper on the top or the front of my box here or the suitcase. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. And then I went ahead and cut out all of my papers and they'll each have a border around it. What I'm going to do though is I decided to go ahead and ink the edges of the suitcase with black ink. And I'm using the Midnight ink by Catherine Pooler. And so I'm going to do all of the edges around my suitcase here. Okay, so I've got the front and the inside covered. And now we're going to go ahead and put the spine or the hinges inside. And we're going to remove the tape from the back of the hinge and add glue. Once you're done adding your glue to the back there, you're going to go ahead and place that down right in that second panel area. Okay, and you're going to go ahead and grab your bone folder or your whatever, your scraper, whatever you use to burnish things in, and you're just going to burnish that in. Okay, and you're going to do each individual little area, gusset in between the hinges there, and then just make sure that it's really set in there good, and voila, we're done. Okay, so for a closure, you're going to go ahead and use one of your chipboard pieces. You're going to grab two cogs, the smaller ones, okay? Or if you have the larger ones, you can use the larger ones too, okay? And then you're going to need your brads, okay? So you're going to need 4 brads. And what we're going to do, and then some twine. So what we're going to do here is now we need to poke our holes in here, okay? And to do that, what we're going to do first is line up our chipboard piece at the end here, okay? And we're going to go ahead and glue this down, and then we're also going to stick in some brads in here, okay? And we're going to stick a brad here in the middle, and you're going to stick a brad here and at the end here, okay? So right on these two ends is where you're going to stick your brad. Now, if you want to, you can definitely paint this or do whatever you would like. I am not going to do that. I am actually just going to leave it like it is. And because I just like that black color, so I'm going to definitely just leave it like this. So I'm going to flip my book over, okay, and you're going to have this part. So we're going to have it like this, all right, where this part is down here at the end. You're going to go ahead and you're going to stick this on here, and like I said, we're just going to glue this down. Okay, so once we get this black chipboard piece glued on, you're going to turn it sideways, and this is where you're going to punch your holes. Now, if you have a punch, you can try to fit it over these parts here, or you can just go ahead and use a pokey tool like I'm going to, and you're just going to go ahead and poke a hole through there. Now I wanted to explain where the holes are. The holes are in the middle of the chipboard. You will see a hole down in below, and you'll poke a hole there. You'll poke a hole on each end of the chipboard. There's 2 little cog pieces. There's 2 holes there. And then there is some other cogs right above there. And there are 2 little cogs on each end of that circle, and you'll poke those. Now, if you want to add brads up here, you are more than welcome to do that. You can definitely add those there just to add more, like just a look to your chipboard piece. Okay. So there we go. So now you've got your holes, and now you can go ahead and grab your brads. Okay, so next I'm just going to go ahead and push my brads through the holes we just created. Now for this part, we are going to go ahead and we're going to cover this piece up. We're going to do a little pocket and stuff on here, so, or a little something on here, so that way you don't have to see your brads, or you can put your brads on here before you cover it. So you can definitely do that. Okay, so for this next part, on these cogs here, you are going to leave your brad a little bit pushed up. You want to try to get your fingernails underneath there and kind of lift it just a bit, okay? Not a bunch, but just a bit to where it's raised. And I don't know if y'all can see. It's kind of hard to see. See how this one's raised right here? And this one is too. Okay, you want to leave them just a little bit raised, and the reason being is because that's where we're going to stick our string, is going to wrap around those. So once you get those in, just go ahead and separate your pieces on your brad, okay, just like that. Alrighty. And there we go. Now we got to go ahead and put our cogs on the bottom piece here. And in order to do that, I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to lay one down here, and I think I might use the big cogs. You can use the little cogs, you can use whatever cogs you would like. I am definitely going to use the bigger cogs, okay? And you are going to go ahead and we're going to place a dot, okay? So you're going to need a pen or a marker, whatever you have. You're going to place this down here and you are going to mark it. So just going to go ahead and I'm just eyeballing it. I'm just lining it up, just eyeballing it. And I'm just going to go ahead and make a dot right there. Come over. And make a dot right there. Okay. All right, so that's where we need to put our holes, okay? And so the next thing we're going to do is come back over, find where we did our little drawing, grab our little pokey tool, and you're just going to go ahead and poke a hole. And again, just make a circle on there. Find the other hole, make a circle on there, just like that. Come back over and then push through on the other side. So your brad will fit through. Okay? Just like that. Alrighty. And then the next thing you're going to do is, now you can glue these down if you would like, okay? So if you have some adhesive or whatever, some paste, okay, glue, whatever you would like, you're just going to go ahead and place your glue down. Place it over that hole that you just made. Okay, we're going to add our cogs by gluing them down, and then you're going to need 2 brads to go into the center of each of those cogs that we're gluing down. Okay, so once you stick your brads inside of the holes, we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut our twine or whatever you're using, and you're going to cut it. I cut mine at 10 inches, but we did cut them down after we got them on. It's better to have a longer piece than a short piece. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and make like a little loop and put that loop over on top of the brad, and like I'm doing here. So you're going to make like that loop and then put that over the brad and then tie it tight over the brad so your string is underneath the top. Okay, so once you get your string over the top of the brad and you tie your loop really tight, you're going to go ahead and leave the brad a little bit raised like we did the top brad. I usually just stick my fingernails right underneath the top of the brad and measure that way. Then once you get that raised a little bit, you're going to go behind and separate the prongs. Okay, so now we can go ahead and close this. And then with your raised brads, that is how you're going to go ahead and tie your twine around them so it locks in place. And then you can trim your string if you want to. I went ahead and trimmed mine a little bit and then just kind of tied a knot on the bottom part of the string so that, it wouldn't unravel. Now you're going to go ahead and do the same thing on the right hand side as we did on the left hand side, putting the little brad in the hole in the middle of your cog with the string attached to it, and then make sure that that brad is a little bit popped up a little bit, and go ahead and close the prongs on the back. And then you're going to go ahead and tie your string on there and it'll be your closure. I think it turned out so stinking cute. I absolutely love the closure of this little suitcase. Okay, you guys, so I went ahead and cut out all of the items for our pages, and I even cut out my mats. So for our mats, okay, you will have some scraps in your pile, and most of the scraps that you have from cutting out some of the items for our pages, like the flips and the flaps and things, you will have some scraps from using your cardstock. So I used some of those to incorporate into our flips and flaps and things. so So for our first one, you will use an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and cut 4.5 by 5 3/4, okay? And I go ahead and I mark like where this is going to be placed. So I put front on here because this is going to be on page 1 in the front, and this is the measurement, okay? And then you're going to score a 1/2 inch on the left hand side, okay? And then for the bottom part, I usually go ahead and mark this with a PP, and that just means my pattern paper. And then I'll go ahead and mark down what my pattern paper measurements are going to be. Now, I just left about 1/8 of an inch all around for a border. So for this one, I did 3 7/8 by 5 5/8. But you can cut yours however you would like. If you want to fill the whole page, then you would just go ahead and cut your pattern paper at 4.5 by 5 3/4. Or you can go ahead and leave a larger, like if you like a 1/4 inch border, you can do that. However you would like to leave your basic mats, okay, or your basic flips and flaps and such is, totally up to you. I did go ahead and I'm going to ink on all of my items, okay, the front and the back, which I didn't do. So I will be doing that. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick while I've got you here. And so that's how that's going to look. And then here is my mat. So I went ahead and measured that out, and that will fit right in there just like that. Okay, same thing with this piece here. This will fit in this mat. Okay, and all right, I'm sorry, it'll fit like this. So this piece here is in the front, and it's going to be 4 by 5 3/4. Okay, you are going to score a 1/2 inch on the right hand side because these are going to be doors, so they're going to open like this. Okay, and so we have that. Then your basic mat for your pages, for all 4 front and back of your pages, you are going to have them cut at 7 by 5 5/8. Okay, so again, it's totally up to you. I kind of like a little bit of a border showing, but if you don't want a border, you don't have to have a border on here. Okay, so just however you want yours done. Okay, so I have my front and my back mat done, and then for our little belly band, your belly band is going to be on the back of page 1, and that's going to be cut at 3 by 6 3/4, and you're going to score a 1/2 inch on the top and the bottom of this. Okay, and then my pattern paper was cut at 2 7/8 by 6 5/8, and that is just going to fit right in between there, just like that. Okay, and we can go ahead and we can place those down. Okay. Okay, so for page 2, you're going to go ahead and use, again, your 8.5 by 11 cardstock, and you are going to cut a piece that is 3.5 by 5 3/4, okay, and you're going to score a 1/2 inch on the left-hand side. Again, I went ahead and did my pattern paper cut at 2 7/8 by 5 5/8. The next one is going to be 4.5 by 5 3/4. You're going to score a 1/2 inch on the left-hand side, and your pattern paper is going to be 3 7/8 by 5 5/8. So all these are going to be 5 5/8. Okay. Your next piece is going to be 5.5 by 5 3/4. Your pattern paper is 4 7/8 by 5 5/8. And then you've got a 6.5 by 5 3/4, and your pattern paper is going to be 5 7/8 by 5 5/8. Your next piece is going to be 7.5 by 5 3/4, and you are going to cut your pattern paper at 6 7/8 by 5 5/8. And then you're going to have your front mat at 7 5/8. Okay, so that's going to fit on there just like that. Same thing with the back. It's going to be the same one. You are going to have 2 pieces that you're going to cut at 7.5 by 5 3/4, and you're going to score them each at a 1/2 inch. Now these are going to overlap, so basically they're going to be like large little doors. Okay, so they'll just fold over onto each other. All right, and then I cut my mats to fit around them. All righty, so there is that. So there's that page, and that is page 2. Okay, now for page 3, you should be having some little a little bit of scraps, okay, in your pile. All right, and so again, what I did is I took some of those, and you're going to go ahead and have some doors again at 4.5 by 5 1/4, and they're going to score a 1/2 inch on the left hand side, and your pattern paper is going to be cut to fit that at 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And then you're going to go ahead and cut another piece at 4 by 5 1/4, so 4 by 5 1/4, and you're going to score a 1/2 inch on the right hand side, and your pattern paper is going to be 3 3/8 by 5 1/8. Okay, and again, your mats are going to be the same size for all 4 sheets, which is going to be, I believe we said 7 by 5 5/8, 7 by 5 5/8. So all of your pages, the mats are going to be the same, 7 by 5 5/8. Okay, so and then it's up to you if you want to ink these or not. You don't have to. I'm going to I think it adds like a really nice look to this. You're going to look in your scrap pile, and you should have some long pieces of your paper, okay, your cardstock, and you're going to go ahead and use that, and it should range anywhere between like 2 3/4. Okay, so it should range about 2 3/4 this way, and you're going to cut that down to 8 1/4. All right, and then you're going to score on the left and right hand side, and then you're going to turn it this way on your scoreboard and score all the way down a 1/2 inch. Okay, so 1/2 inch on this side, your right, your left, and then on the left hand side when you turn it this way. And then you're going to go ahead and just find a piece of paper to mat that with. Okay, and again, you can ink your papers or you don't have to. It's totally up to you. On your page 4, this is the last page we have. Again, you should have some items in your stack that kind of fit or around the same size that these are. So just look in your scrap pile and you should find some. Okay, these are going to be cut. This is page 4. This is going to be the front, and you're going to have one that is 3.5 by 5 3/4. Okay, and you're going to score a 1/2 inch on the left hand side. If you want, the pattern paper is going to be 2 7/8 by 5 3/8. The next one is going to be 4.5 by 5 3/4. You're going to go ahead and score a 1/2 inch on the left hand side. Your pattern paper is going to be 3 7/8 by 5 3/8. Now in the instructions, I will not have, like if you read the blog, I won't have the pattern paper listed, just the main cuts for your album or for your pages. Your next pages or your next little waterfall here is going to be 5.5 by 5 3/4. You're going to score a 1/2 inch on the left hand side, and your pattern paper is 4 7/8 by 5 3/8. And then you're going to have your mat. Okay, again, you're going to have your mat for your back. And then we're going to have some flaps here, and your flaps are going to be, you're going to cut 2, okay, and they're going to be 7 by 5 1/4. You're going to score a 1/2 inch. You can score both of them on the left hand side. It really doesn't matter, okay, and the reason being is because they're going to be sitting like this on top of each other, so you're going to have a flap that opens up this way and this way, okay, and those are going to be your pattern paper. I measured at 6 3/4 by 4 1/2. Okay, so I went ahead and cut my papers out. Alrighty, so there's those, and that is it. So those are all 4 of the pages and their measurements. Okay, and now we can go ahead and we can ink all of these and put them together. For our first page, okay, you're going to go ahead and ink everything. Before you mat some things down, okay, we are going to go ahead and put these on here. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and put on the front flaps of page 1. And you're going to go ahead, make sure that you have the opened end towards the bottom, because that's going to be the part that we slip into the hinge. Okay, so you want that opened end at the bottom. Next, we're going to go ahead and, like I said, attach both of those flaps on each end, the right and the left. Okay, and then we're going to paper those. Now we're going to go ahead and put on the pattern paper, and I'm just going to add my adhesive to the back of the mat and place that right in the middle. Then you're going to make sure that you burnish in everything really good once you add on your papers. And this is going to be on the one side here on the left side, and then your other paper is going to go on the right side. Now when I placed these on, I just did the front parts of each of the flaps and such. I didn't do the inside, and I figured y'all could do the inside on your own. I went ahead and finished the inside, of course, so it's a completed album, but I didn't show that on video. Here we're going to go ahead and do the belly band, and I'm just covering that. First we're going to go ahead and we're going to place the top 1/2 inch tab down. Now we're going to go ahead and adhere down the mat, and you're just going to go ahead and place that on top of that 1/2 inch flap. You're going to grab the other 1/2 inch flap, adhere your glue, and tuck that underneath your mat. Okay, the next thing I did is burnish down everything really good, and I tucked in a little mat or photo mat in there for you so you could see how it is supposed to look. So on the front of page 1, we're going to go ahead and create a closure for your flaps. You're going to grab 2 cogs and a pokey tool. You're going to go ahead and grab your pokey tool and the cog and place a hole right in the center, and grab a brad and place that right in the middle. And you're going to do the same thing for the other side. So again, grab a cog and poke a hole through that, and then place your brad in the center of that cog. Okay. You can go ahead and glue the cogs down. All right, now that your brads are in place, you're going to go ahead and grab some twine, and you're going to make a little loop, and you're going to place that over the top of your brad, and just go ahead and tighten that loop, and then you're going to go ahead and create your closure just like I did there. So you're just going to go ahead and make like a circle, like an 8, like a little figure 8 right in front of there. And that's how you're going to create a flap, or I mean a closure for those flaps, and then you can cover the inside of those. Okay. All right, now we're going to start page 2, and before we put on our mat, we're going to make sure that our opening is at the bottom again. Okay, so you're going to apply some glue on your mat your front of your page, and you can do the back too at the same time if you want to, and it's just totally up to you. Next, we're going to go ahead and we're going to paper all of the waterfall pieces, okay? And I already cut out all of my papers, and we're going to go ahead and attach all of the front pieces to the waterfall. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and put together our waterfall, and you are actually going to grab the small piece. This one is the next size over, and I actually made a boo-boo here, so you'll see in a minute. I'll tear it off, and we actually put the smaller piece back on. So we're going to put the small piece on first, okay, and you're just going to go ahead and butt that fold up to the edge of your mat, okay, so the front of your mat, and then you're going to grab the second piece and line that second piece up with the 1/2 inch that the 1/2 inch tab that you just laid down for the first piece. And then you're going to do the same thing with the third piece. So the third piece is going to be lined up against the 1/2 inch tab from the second waterfall piece that you laid down, and then so on and so forth. So the fourth piece that you lay on will lay a little bit actually on top of the third piece because it is a little long. And that's how we're going to go ahead and attach all of our waterfall pieces on, okay? And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to attach the fourth flap, okay? And the fourth flap is actually going to go on the other side. So your 1/2 inch is going to be on your right hand side. And right now I'm just matting it. And you will need 2 magnets for this part, okay? Or if you want to, you can use a ribbon of some sort if you want to. I didn't use a ribbon, I used magnets. So I'm not sure how you can tie that on except for maybe attach the ribbon to the backside of the the mat itself, the page, okay? and then bring your ribbon to the front. So right now we're just attaching that 1/2 inch flap to the right hand side. You're going to close your booklet, attach your magnets as I'm doing here. So one will be taped down, and then I went ahead and glued down the other one behind the small front flap of the waterfall there, and now we're done. Okay, so now we're doing the back of page 2, and basically you're just going to have 2 side flaps, one on the left and one on the right, and you're going to go ahead and attach those to the sides. You're going to attach the 1/2 inch little tab on the ends of each side. So you'll attach that 1/2 inch tab on the left hand side and attach the 1/2 inch little tab on the right hand side of the back of page 2, like I'm doing here. And I went ahead and placed my mats on prior to placing them on the flaps onto the main page. Now I'm just going to go ahead and add my mat in between there, and then we're done with page 2. Okay, so now we're on page 3, and for page 3 you have a pocket in the front, and you're just going to go ahead and adhere on the mat onto the front of page 3, and make sure that you have your opening at the bottom. Next, you're going to go ahead and take your pocket piece, and you're going to go ahead and cut those 2 ends off, and then apply your mat to the front of your pocket. Go ahead and fold the tabs backward and add your glue or tape, and you're just going to go ahead and adhere that pocket to the front just like that, and you're done with the front. Then next, the back of page 3, you're going to go ahead and do the same thing that you did on page 1. So on page 1 we had the 2 flaps on the sides, and this is just the same thing. So basically you're just going to add the 2 1/2 inch flaps on the left and then one on the right, and then you are done. Okay, so for the next thing, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing that we did on page 1, and that's adding our closures on, and that was using the cogs. So we're going to go ahead and glue those in place. Go ahead and grab your brad, put your brad in, and then you're going to do that on both sides of each page, and then you're going to go ahead and grab your twine or string, whatever you're using, and then you're going to go ahead and adhere that on or place it on. So here next we're going to go ahead and grab our twine. You're going to cut a bit, you make a little loop, tie that on top, put that loop over the top of your brad, make sure it's tight, and then that is going to be your closure. Okay, so for this next one, we're going to go ahead and do the flaps. And the flaps are to the top and then the bottom. So you're going to go ahead and mat your flaps, and then you're going to go ahead and make sure that the bottom is the open part of your page, okay? And then you're just going to go ahead and you're going to place that 1/2 inch little tab to the top and one to the bottom. So they're going to overlap like this, okay? Just like I'm showing you here, okay? And then you can go ahead and place your mat on the inside of that. So the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding our magnets, and you're going to place one at the top of the flap, and then the other one is going to be on the bottom of the flap. So you're going to place the other one on top of the front flap where the other one is, and then that way they're both on the inside of each flap, okay? And then you can tape that down. Okay, so next we're going to be adding the waterfall to the back of page 4. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mat all of my my mats on top of the little flaps, okay? And then I'll be right back. Okay, so for the back of page 4, we're going to go ahead and place on our little waterfall here. And it's just, you're going to start with the smallest one first. Again, place that folded edge uh, to the half-inch flap to the folded edge, okay, of your left-hand side. Then you're going to go ahead and do the same thing for the second and third piece. You're just going to line those up and glue those down, okay, right underneath each half-inch flap. Next, we're going to go ahead and add in our closure, and for that, I decided to go ahead and use the cogs again. I just love that look, and I'm going to go ahead and place the first cog on the first flap here and add a little brad there, and then grab that close. The second cog piece is going to go on the way back here, and I'll show you here in just a second. And we're going to actually, you're going to measure this out and you're going to cover that. So I went ahead and cut out a sheet of paper, and I'm going to place the second cog on the very back page there, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. And then we're going to lift that up, and again we're going to go ahead and pierce that and place a brad right in the center of that cog, okay? And then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and adhere that mat to the back of the opened area there on page 4, okay, on the back page. So, and then you'll get your string and do the same thing that we did before, where you'll go ahead and just make a loop and place that over your little brad, and that will be your closure. So here I'm just adding my glue, getting ready to adhere this back page, or the mat to the back page. And then I'm going to share with you how right now I'm just making sure everything's burnished down really good, so nothing is coming up. Here I'm tying just a little loop, placing it around the brad on the back and brad, okay, so the brad that's on the right hand side. I'm going to place that over it, and then it will tie on the front. And you'll just make like a little loop, tie it around that brad there. And I just like to make a little loop at the end of my string there. And then you're done. So we are all done with our pages, okay? Next, we're going to be placing these inside of our book. Okay, so when our book is opened, our pages will be facing upward and they will come forward. So we will go ahead and start with number 4. So since this is number 4 page, we are going to go ahead and add that first and then just work our way forward. Okay, and okay, to start, you're going to go ahead and take off the tape that is on the fourth hinge, okay? And then I'm adding glue to mine. I usually do that just because it gives me a little bit of leeway time to get my page situated and on there, and it does help with the adhesion to the page. So I'm going to go ahead and just place page 4 on there. And you're not going to place the page all the way down to the very bottom of the hinge. You're going to leave like maybe a 1/16 of an inch or so from the bottom. Okay, then you're going to go ahead and take your third hinge. Again, take off your double back tape, add your glue if you choose to do that, and add your third page in. And again, you're just going to do the same thing for the third hinge, the second, and the first hinge when we put on our pages. Alrighty, so now we're done placing all of our pages inside of our book. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and cover up the backside of the little prongs that are that are showing on this page here. This is the inside of the book, and I'm just going to grab some tape, double back tape, okay, and I'm going to place that over those prongs, okay. And what I'm doing here is I'm just making sure my brads are raised in the front, so that way I can loop my string around them. Okay, and I'm just gluing down the string inside there. And next we're going to use our scraps to create our pocket. Okay. Okay, so you're going to find two pieces of scratch cardstock in your scraps, and they are going to measure about 2 3/4, and you're going to cut them down to 8. Then we're going to put them in our scoreboard, and you're going to go ahead and score a 1/2 inch on the right and left hand side and along the bottom part, which is the 2 3/4 up at the top. Then you're going to go ahead and cut off the intersections of where the score lines meet on the corners, and you're going to cut those off. And you're going to go ahead and fold those in and burnish those in just like I am here. You're going to cut off on one of the pieces, you're going to cut off all of the 1/2 inch tabs. And that's going to leave you with the 8-inch piece, and that's going to be the back of your pocket. So here I am just adding my glue to the 1/2 inch flaps, and I'm going to glue that 8-inch piece to the back. Now you only have to cover one side of this pocket, and you should have some strips in your stash that will fit on there. And you don't need to cover both sides because the other side is actually going to be glued to the inside of our album here, and it's going to be glued right there where we stuck the back double back tape, and you want the opening to the left side of your book there. Okay, so you can stick your little ephemera pieces, journaling cards, or whatever inside of that pocket. Now that pocket is going to cover up the brads that were poked on the other side of there. So now you don't have to worry about the brads interfering with anything that is going to be placed in that pocket. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do some designing or do some decorating inside of this mini album. And here I will be fast forwarding and probably playing some music off and on while I fussy cut out some of the cut apart pieces, ephemera pieces from the beautiful paper collection by 3/4 Designs. This collection is the Vintage Man collection and is so stinking cute, or so pretty, I should say. Not cute, but just really pretty. I absolutely love this collection, and it's so manly, so masculine, but there is a way that you can use these pieces to create a feminine touch as well. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that now we're just going to be decorating, and now I'm just decorating the little pocket that we placed right in the front there. And now I'm going to go ahead and decorate the little belly band that we made on the back of page 1. Or I'm sorry, yeah, the back of page 1. And I am just going to go ahead and I'm actually I'm creating a little photo mat, and I'm just going to place that little photo mat right inside there. And I'm just using a scrap piece of paper to create that photo mat. Just placing some of the pieces on the end there, not covering the whole entire sheet, but just the ends. And we're just going to slide that right in between that belly band. And now I'm going to decorate the front of page 2. And again, I'm just using some of the cut apart pieces and fussy cutting them out. And so I'm just going to go ahead and play some music for you now. Okay, so what we're doing here is I'm just going to go ahead and create like a little collage with a lot of, or some of the little perforated ephemera pieces from the collection. And I decided to do this because it covers up some of the prongs that are poking through from the brads that we stuck through for um, the locking mechanism. Okay, so I decided to go ahead and cut this little envelope out. This is one of the cut aparts from the collection, and I stuck it in my scoreboard just to go ahead and score the lines on this little envelope. And I just went ahead and actually it's a pocket, not an envelope. And I went ahead and stuck it there on the bottom, and then I added some ephemera pieces in that little pocket. Don't forget that you can use your scraps to cover up the gussets in your album. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and make our handle, and you're going to need a piece of cardstock that is 1 1/4 by 8, and you're going to go ahead and cover that with your pattern paper. And if you need to ink it up so everything is uniform, and then you're going to go ahead and you're going to curl this paper with your hands, and that way it's breaking up the fiber and it's just getting ready for it to look like a handle on top of your suitcase. Next, we're going to score 3/4 inches on each side, which is the left and the right side of that handle, okay? And that's 3/4 inches. And then you're going to go ahead again and bend it. And now your handle is ready to place on your suitcase. So to place your handle on top of your suitcase, you are just going to go ahead and glue this on, okay? And we're going to just get our glue, adhere it, put the glue on the parts where we scored down, the little parts where it's going to like be bended, and we're going to go ahead and glue those on top of your suitcase, just like that. Now, if you have the scrapbook kit, you have some metal pieces that you received, and you're gonna grab the wings and you're gonna place those on, or you can use the cogs if you'd like. I had 2 sets of the wing metal pieces, so I went ahead and used 2 that were the same. I really like how this vintage man suitcase turned out, and I hope that y'all enjoyed it just as much as I did making it. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I hope that you guys felt inspired to create this little album, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care, and I will talk to you soon. I have all of the links and everything down below for you. So head on over to Tres Jolie Shop and take a look at all of the beautiful chipboards she has, and paper kits, card kits, and mixed media kits. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Take care, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Thanks so much for joining me today, y'all. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and hit that bell for future notifications on all upcoming videos, tutorials, YouTube hops, and my Friday night lives at 4:30 Central Time.